My mother chose to stay away from her grandchild, leaving a wound that runs deep in our family. Despite numerous invitations and heartfelt pleas, she remained distant and unresponsive, leaving a heavy silence that fractured the bonds we once cherished and filled my heart with a deep, aching pain. It's been over 2.5 years since my daughter was born, and in all that time, my mother has never once come to see her in person. That reality stings like a wound that never quite heals. I can't say it's been easy carrying that pain silently, but today, with another baby on the way, the emotions that I thought I had buried deep are resurfacing raw and unfiltered. It's time I finally say this out loud. Living in Florida, while most of my family lives back in Chicago, has been a constant struggle, not just with distance, but with the emotional toll that distance has taken on me and my child. My father and sister have made the effort to come visit my daughter multiple times. Each visit was a blessing, a moment when the gap felt smaller and love felt present. They held her, played with her, and showed her the kind of family bond every child deserves. But my mother, she remained absent, a ghost looming over our lives without ever crossing the threshold into our home. I don't think people realize just how much a mother's absence can hurt, especially when she's supposed to be one of the pillars of your family. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was busy, maybe travel was difficult for her, but the truth was harder to swallow. She was in good health. I even offered to pay for her flights and hotel if she wanted to bring her boyfriend, someone she's been with for 4 or 5 years. Still, she declined or simply ignored my invitations. It's not like I'm asking for much. I don't want extravagant gifts or grand gestures. I just want her to come and meet my daughter, to hold her in her arms, to see the little person I've been nurturing every day for over 2 years. Instead, I'm met with silence or excuses that never quite add up. I've spent countless nights crying quietly, wondering what I did wrong or why she chose not to be part of my daughter's life. The absence isn't just physical, it's emotional. My daughter's milestones pass without her grandmother's presence. Birthdays, first steps, first words, they all happen without my mother there to witness or celebrate. Despite all this, we managed to keep a fragile connection through weekly FaceTime calls. It's the only thing that keeps us linked, the digital thread that stretches across miles and years of unspoken pain. But even those calls don't erase the feeling of abandonment. They are reminders of what's missing, not what's present. After my first child was born, the pain of her absence became unbearable, and I cut off communication with my mother for several months. It was a defense mechanism, a way to protect my heart from the relentless rejection. But the silence didn't fix anything. It only deepened the void. Now, with another baby due in June, all those feelings, sadness, loneliness, anger, are flooding back stronger than ever. The thought of going through this again, of hoping for a visit that may never come, makes my chest tighten and my mind spin with frustration. Living in Florida makes visiting Chicago difficult for me, too. I've driven to Tennessee to see my brother, but flying to Chicago has been out of reach both financially and emotionally. It feels like the distance is growing in every direction, not just in miles, but in the cracks opening between us. What complicates matters even more is my mother's lifestyle and personality. She's been unemployed for years, so it's not like she didn't have the time before. Now she works for a school district and has summers off, the perfect opportunity to visit. Yet she refuses to come. When I ask her, she shrugs me off, ignores me, or offers excuses that feel hollow. The pain of being repeatedly brushed aside is hard to describe. I've come to believe that she's incredibly dependent on others, especially her boyfriend. If he's not holding her hand, she's unwilling or unable to face the world alone. That dependence frustrates me because it feels like she's using others as a shield to avoid facing difficult truths or making hard choices. The divorce between my parents adds another layer of tension. When my father came to visit my daughter, my mother was upset that she wasn't invited to fly with him. It felt like she was deflecting blame, making petty complaints instead of confronting her own role in this family drama. All these emotions, the hurt, the anger, the disappointment, are like a storm swirling inside me. I don't know if I can keep weathering it, or if I'll eventually have to let go of hope entirely. But one thing is clear, I don't want my children to grow up feeling the same emptiness I feel. The months passed, and every unanswered message, every ignored invitation chipped away at the fragile threads of hope I clung to. I tried everything, calling, texting, sending photos, sharing every milestone of my daughter's life. but it was as if my mother had built an invisible wall, a fortress of indifference that I could not breach. The pain was suffocating, but I refused to give up. How could I? My child deserved better than to grow up without her grandmother's love. When I told my mother I was expecting again, I thought this might change things. Maybe the news of a new life would soften her heart, spark a maternal instinct that had been dormant for too long. Instead, it triggered a storm of silence and coldness. She didn't congratulate me, didn't ask how I was feeling, didn't even acknowledge the pregnancy. It was like I was speaking into a void. My father and sister, meanwhile, continued their visits. They showered my daughter with attention and affection, creating memories that I desperately wanted my mother to be part of. But her absence was a glaring void at every family gathering. When we FaceTimed, she spoke in short sentences, never asking about the pregnancy or my feelings. It was as if she had emotionally checked out of our lives altogether. One day I made the difficult decision to drive my daughter to Tennessee to visit my brother. I wanted my mother to know I was making sacrifices to keep the family connected, even if she wasn't willing to meet us halfway. Yet when I mentioned this to her, she barely responded. There was no warmth, no gratitude, only a cold detachment that made my heart ache. I began to question everything. Was it something I did? Was I not enough for her? Did she resent me for reasons I could never understand? These questions haunted my nights and clouded my days. I felt isolated, like a daughter cast aside by the person who was supposed to love me unconditionally. The worst part was watching my daughter grow up without her grandmother's touch, her stories, her warmth. I wanted to protect her from the pain of rejection, but I couldn't shield her from reality. I hoped my mother would change her mind. But with every passing day, hope felt more like a fragile dream slipping through my fingers. My mother's dependence on her boyfriend only seemed to deepen the divide. I saw how she relied on him for every little thing, afraid to take steps alone. It was frustrating to watch, knowing that her inability to stand on her own 2 feet was causing so much damage to our family. When my father visited, the tension between my parents was palpable. My mother's jealousy over not being invited to fly with him was petty, but revealing a way to deflect blame and avoid facing her own shortcomings. I confided in my father, once hoping for understanding or support. Instead, he brushed off my feelings, saying things like, "She's always been like this," or "You need to learn to accept her for who she is." Those words stung. It felt like I was fighting this battle alone with no one to lean on. As my due date approached, the anger and hurt resurfaced with a vengeance. I felt torn between wanting to forgive and move on and the raw pain of feeling abandoned. The cycle of disappointment seemed endless, and I wondered if I could break free from it, or if I was doomed to repeat the same patterns of hurt and neglect. The nights grew longer, and the silence from my mother grew louder. I found myself standing at a crossroads. Should I cut communication again, protect my heart, and focus on the family that showed up for me? Or should I keep trying, hoping for a miracle that might never come? The answer wasn't clear. But one thing was certain: I refused to let this silence define my relationship with my children. I would be the grandmother. My mother was not present, loving, and unwavering. As the days edged closer to my due date, the tension between hope and despair tightened like a noose around my heart. Each time I reached out to my mother, I found myself swallowed by silence, or met with excuses so thin they barely masked her indifference. It was as if the mother who once gave me life had quietly decided I wasn't worth her time, and that realization cut deeper than any words could. The reality of her absence was no longer just a quiet ache. It became a storm raging inside me. I couldn't understand how someone so close by, just a few states away, could remain so emotionally distant, refusing even the simplest act of kindness, a visit, a phone call, a moment of genuine connection. I began to question not only her love, but her very reasons. Was it fear, resentment, or had she simply given up? My father's side visits only sharpened the contrast. Each smile, each laugh, each memory made without her presence was a reminder of what was missing. My daughter adored her grandpa and aunt, but she had no idea what it meant to miss someone so important. My mother's absence left a silence at the table, a cold, empty chair, and a hollow place in our hearts. One afternoon, after a particularly painful exchange where my mother shrugged off yet another invitation, I sat down with my father to try and understand. I needed to know why my mother, despite all our efforts, remained distant. She's always been like this, he said with a weary sigh. She's afraid of change, afraid to step outside her comfort zone. You've seen how she depends on her boyfriend. It's like she's forgotten how to be independent. I wanted to argue to say that fear wasn't a good enough excuse for years of neglect, but something in his tired eyes stopped me. He was carrying his own burdens, lost dreams, regrets, and years of trying to hold a broken family together. But what about the resentment I pressed? She acts like I'm the problem, like I'm the one pushing her away. Dad looked away, his silence louder than any answer. It was the first time I felt the full weight of our fractured family. It wasn't just about me or my mother. It was about wounds so deep, generations of pain, that no one wanted to confront. In the midst of this, I faced another heartbreaking reality. My younger sister, who lived with my mother, was growing distant from me. The bond we once shared was fraying, strained by years of unresolved conflict and misunderstandings. Whenever I tried to reach out, she was cold or dismissive, echoing the same neglect I felt from our mother. It was like the cycle was repeating itself and I was powerless to stop it. The emotional toll was crushing. I felt torn between wanting to fight for my family and wanting to protect myself from more heartbreak. I confided in close friends, hoping to find solace or advice. Many told me to set boundaries to protect my heart from those who didn't value it. Others urged me to keep the door open to hope for change. One sleepless night, as the weight of all this pressed down on me, I wondered if I could bear it much longer. I was about to bring a new life into this world, a child who deserved love and stability. Could I let history repeat itself? Could I allow my child to feel the same absence, the same pain that I did? I realized I had a choice. I could keep hoping for a mother who might never show up, or I could focus on building a family where love was unconditional, where presence mattered more than blood. But even as I made that decision, the question lingered. Would my mother ever truly see what she was missing, or was it already too late? The days after that restless night passed slowly, each moment weighted with unspoken questions and aching silence. I knew I couldn't keep carrying this burden alone, but confronting my mother felt like stepping into a storm I wasn't sure I could survive. Finally, I decided it was time. I called her, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger, sadness, and desperate hope. I wanted answers, to understand why she stayed away, why she ignored every invitation, every plea to be part of my child's life. "Why don't you come to see her?" I asked, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. "I've even offered to pay for your flight, the hotel. Everything." There was a pause, then a shaky breath on the other end. I don't know if I can," she said quietly. "It's complicated. Complicated how you don't even try. You won't even meet your granddaughter. I don't understand." Her silence was deafening. When she finally spoke, her words were clipped defensive. "It's not that simple. I'm not like your father or your sister. I don't just drop everything and go." The bitterness in her tone stung me like a slap I wasn't prepared for. "You've had years to figure it out. You're healthy. You have a job with summers off. You're just choosing not to come." She sighed, and I could almost hear the walls she had built around herself. "You don't understand my life. I'm not the person you want me to be. I just want you to be there for my child." That's all I whispered, my voice breaking. We ended the call in silence, both wounded and exhausted. I knew the path forward wouldn't be easy. Her excuses were shields, but behind them was a complicated mix of fear, resentment, and maybe guilt. She wasn't just hurting me, she was hurting herself, trapped by years of dependency and bitterness. That night I lay awake thinking about what my father said, how she depended on her boyfriend so much she didn't know how to be her own person. It explained a lot. Her anger when my father visited, upset that she wasn't invited along, suddenly made sense as a way to deflect responsibility. But what hurt most was the realization that I might be watching a cycle repeat. My mother's absence, her emotional withdrawal, wasn't just a personal failure, it was a legacy, one that threatened to shadow my own family if I didn't find a way to break free. The following week, I confronted my sister during a rare visit. Her coldness had been eating at me for months, and I needed to hear her side. "Why do you push me away? Why do you act like I don't matter?" I asked, voice trembling. She looked away, eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and anger. "Because it feels like you don't see me. You're always busy, always trying to control everything. I was stunned. I only want what's best for you and your daughter. Why can't we be a family? Her voice dropped. Because sometimes family hurts more than anyone else. Her words echoed in my mind long after she left. The cracks in our family were deeper than I imagined, pain and misunderstandings running so deep that love struggled to find a way through. That night I sat with my daughter, holding her close, wondering what kind of family I was building for her. Would she grow up surrounded by love, or haunted by the same emptiness I had felt? Could I rewrite this story? The truth was, I didn't have all the answers. But I knew one thing for sure: I couldn't let the past dictate my future. The weight of silence in the house grew heavier with every passing day. My daughter's laughter echoed against walls that felt colder than ever, and I struggled to hold myself together. I knew something had to change, but what I decided to try one last time. I reached out to my mother again, sending a message that was raw and honest. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of pretending everything is okay when it's not. This isn't just about visits or flights. It's about family love and the chance to build something better. I want you to be part of our lives, but you have to want it too. Hours passed with no reply. The silence was a crushing reminder that some wounds run too deep, that not everyone is ready to heal. Then came a response, short and bitter. Maybe I don't want to be part of your life anymore. Maybe I've been too patient already. My heart broke in two. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, feeling both lost and strangely free. For years, I'd hoped for a relationship that seemed impossible, and now the truth was undeniable. I had to stop waiting for her. But the fight inside me wasn't over. How could I give up on family when it was all I had left? In that moment, I realized the cycle I feared so much wasn't just about absence or bitterness. It was about choice. I could choose to keep hurting to hold on to resentment, or I could choose to break free and create a new path for my daughter. I started with small steps, focusing on the bond with my sister, repairing what was broken between us, and setting boundaries that protected my heart. I surrounded myself with people who showed up, who cared, and who understood that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about those who choose to stay. Yet questions lingered. Would my mother ever come around? Could she let go of the past and find her own strength? Or was this the beginning of a permanent rift? I don't have the answers yet. But I know this much: I won't let pain dictate my future. I owe that to myself and to the little girl who deserves a family built on love, not neglect. If you've ever felt caught in a cycle of hurt with your own family, you're not alone. Sometimes breaking free is the bravest thing we can do. Wow, this story really hit me deep. It's heartbreaking to see how family struggles can affect us across generations. It makes you realize how important it is to set boundaries and choose who truly deserves your time and love. Thank you, Reddit Jury, for sharing such a powerful and relatable story. If you felt the same way, please give this video a like. And don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Jury for more real stories that speak to the heart. Your support means everything.